What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome to Fresh Comic Stories. Guys, this is the channel that we basically sit down and cover different kinds of comic book stories. Now, guys, today we are going to jump back over to Marvel. Matter of fact, we are going to jump back over to Ultimate Marvel and continue our coverage over the Ultimate Marvel universe. Now, today, we're going to pick up with Ultimate Spider-Man and cover the Warriors storyline. Now, in this storyline, we're going to see Spider-Man team up with some other superheroes in the Ultimate Marvel universe, like Daredevil, Iron Fist, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange. And so, guys, this storyline right here is going to be one heck of a ride. And I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please hit that like button down below and also subscribe for more comic book stories like this in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below. But guys, let's go ahead and dive into Ultimate Spider-Man Warriors. And so this story opens up with Peter and Mary Jane going to his house after the Clone Saga storyline. And this reminds us that in the Clone Saga, the house was shot up by S.H.I.E.L.D., the Fantastic Four, and some of the clones of Spider-Man. And so right now you have the Wrecking Crew fixing up his house because, well, S.H.I.E.L.D. is paying for it. Now, the Wrecking Crew in the main Marvel universe are a group of bad guys that Thor fights. They are named after a bunch of different tools, but they each have their own set of powers. But in the Ultimate Marvel universe, they are just a bunch of guys who are a construction team. Now, this scene is really just Peter coming to grab some things before he visits Aunt May in the hospital. And this leads us to jump over to the hospital, where we get a reminder that Aunt May now knows that Peter is Spider-Man. And this leads to Aunt May saying that they need to talk once she is out of the hospital, because this man has so much to tell her about him being Spider-Man. But the conversation changes when they see a new TV report. This report is stating that Spider-Man is the most popular superhero in New York, mainly because of the movie that was done earlier in this universe, which we did cover as well. But also because a few other things as well made him popular. And this leads us to the villain of the storyline, and we are bringing in the Kingpin once again. This time we come to find out that one of his companies bought out another company that owned the merchandise rights to Spider-Man. And so right now he basically owns Spider-Man in a way. With the Kingpin finding out that he owns the merchandise rights to Spider-Man, he wants to run the merchandising for Spider-Man into the ground to show how much he hates the Spider. Now, after finding out that he owns Spider-Man, his new assistant, Mr. Rose, who we will only see in this storyline, brings him downstairs to meet the new assassin to be on Kingpin's payroll, basically taking the place of Elektra since she is now gone. And we see this man in this random outfit trying to get on Kingpin's payroll. But when Kingpin asks him to prove that he is a killer, this man just freezes up and is scared to kill someone. And that tells Kingpin that this man is really not a killer. He just lied to get here to get at Kingpin. This leads to a fight between him and Kingpin. And this is where we find out that it is Chang-Chi, the master of Kung Fu. And he is here to try to kill the Kingpin. But he is unable to do that since the Kingpin beats the crap out of him. Chang-Chi is able to run away to get outside, hoping to escape. But we see some of the Kingpin's guys has him cornered. Luckily, at the last second, Daredevil comes to save him and tells him that he has an offer for Chang-Chi to form a new team. That is when we finally pick back up with Peter Parker and Mary Jane as they are arriving at school for the day. Now, out of nowhere though, they are greeted by Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. This is where we come to find out that Matt was able to figure out that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Just by using his powers to match the voice of Peter Parker to Spider-Man, you have Matt tell Peter that he is forming a team of heroes to go after the Kingpin. Well, really, to kill the Kingpin, he says, after giving the location to where to meet up, and disappears. Then you have Peter finally get to class and he sits next to Mary Jane, where of course she asks him what was that all about, and of course he tells her it has something to do with Daredevil. But after stating that, Mary Jane asks if Peter had talked to Kitty, since Peter and Kitty, aka Shadowcat from the X-Men, used to date. But since the Clone Saga, Peter went back to Mary Jane and has not talked to Kitty at all. Now Peter does not know that Kitty saw them kiss at the end of the Clone Saga. But while Mary Jane and Peter are talking about Kitty, that is when we find out that there are two new students. One being Jessica Jones, who plays a minor role here, and the second one is no other than Kitty Pryde herself. Shadowcat has now joined Midtown High. Now, of course, the whole classroom knows who she is because of the X-Men popularity. And when she takes her seat next to Mary Jane, every single person starts to ask her questions about being a mutant and how it is like to be on the X-Men as well. Plus, why she left the X-Men, which if you read Ultimate X-Men, it was because the death of Charles Xavier made her leave the team. But if you read this book, she states because her and Xavier had a disagreement. There is no connection between the two titles. But once Liz Allen, the friend of Mary Jane, tells her that mutants are the worst thing in the world, Kitty tries to tell her that mutants and humans can live together. But to make this moment even more awkward, you have someone ask her about dating Spider-Man, and she runs out to school to get away. And this leads to the most awkward conversation for Peter Parker to have with someone, because Peter never talked to Kitty Pryde after getting back with Mary Jane. And so when Peter goes to talk to Kitty, she lets him know that she saw the kiss. She came to Queens when the news was stating something was happening in Peter's neighborhood. She made the X-Men go to help him, and that is when she saw him kissing Mary Jane. But also the fact that the reason she left the X-Men is because her and Charles Xavier had a disagreement. That disagreement was when she asked Charles Xavier to wipe the mind of Aunt May, because she remembers that Peter did not want Aunt May to know if he was Spider-Man. The conversation ends though with Kitty Pryde just leaving Peter Parker behind to get away from him. That is when the story jumps over to Peter putting on his Spider-Man outfit and goes to the superhero meeting that Daredevil invited him to earlier. And when Spider-Man gets there, he sees Daredevil with Doctor Strange, Shang-Chi, Moon Knight, and also Iron Fist as well. But this is where we find out that they all came together to go after the Kingpin and finally put him away. Then you have everyone throwing different ideas until finally they come up with the plan to send in Moon Knight under a fake name and a new hero personality. Basically doing the same thing Shang-Chi did earlier, but now Moon Knight is going to do it instead because Moon Knight can make it better believable that he is there to be hired by the Kingpin. Now before this chapter closes, we see that Iron Fist is talking to someone about the whole plan. That is when we come to find out that Iron Fist is truly working for the Kingpin, but he is telling every piece of the plan that the team made earlier. The fact that Moon Knight is going to try to be the Kingpin's new man, but under a new superhero identity. And so the question is, what is Spider-Man and the rest of the team is going to do now with Iron Fist telling Kingpin their whole plan? Now, the third chapter of this storyline gives us a reminder of Moon Knight's mental state. Remember that Moon Knight has a multi-personality disorder. And we see the other personalities in his head right now, including Mark Spector, Steve Grant, and of course, Moon Knight. But with Moon Knight telling the other heroes that he will take another personality, the other personalities are worried his mind can't handle another being inside his mind. But while they are trying to figure this out, that is when we see the birth of a new personality in the head of Moon Knight. The new personality is Ronin, and this gives us the first look of Ultimate Ronin in Marvel Comics. In the main Marvel Universe, Ronin was something multiple characters use as a way to go solo, but to go undercover to do some dark stuff for someone else. But getting back into the storyline, we pick up with Moon Knight being Ronin now, and we see him meeting up with the Kingpin, trying to become the Kingpin's new right-hand man. Where of course the Kingpin asks Moon Knight, who is now Ronin, to prove that he is somebody that he can trust. And so you have Ronin just beat up on every single person in the room except the Kingpin. But after doing that, you have the Kingpin give Ronin his first mission. Moon Knight is supposed to go after Spider-Man and bring him to the Kingpin. That is when we jump back over to Midtown High and we pick back up with Peter and Mary Jane. And while they are going over some different things in their daily lives, outside of school, you have Moon Knight hijacking a school bus. And then he takes the school bus and runs it right into the high school. And of course, the only reason why Moon Knight knows that Spider-Man goes to Midtown High is because in our earlier videos, we saw that Spider-Man had to take a lot of his battles here at Midtown High. And also the fact that you have so many news reports say that Spider-Man must be a student here at this high school. And so that is how Moon Knight knows that Spider-Man goes to Midtown High. Now, Kitty Pryde goes in first, hoping to stop Moon Knight. Now, this does look like a battle where she should win because she can phase through anything. But Kitty Pryde let her anger get a hold of her and then leads to her making mistakes. Those mistakes let Moon Knight win the battle and knock her out. But right when it seems like she's going to die by the hands of Moon Knight, you do have Spider-Man jump right into the battle and stops him from attacking Kitty Pryde. And this does lead to a battle between the two heroes. But since Moon Knight is a very well trained fighter, he was able to knock out Spider-Man. Then we see him take Spider-Man with him and head towards the Kingpin office. This of course leads to the Kingpin getting Spider-Man delivered to him like he commanded Moon Knight to do. That is when we pick up with Spider-Man tied up to a chair and unmasked as well. And when he looks up, he sees himself surrounded by the Kingpin, Kingpin's men, and also Ronin as well. This leads to Spider-Man realizing how dire this situation truthfully is. You have Kingpin tell Spider-Man about the fact how he owns the merchandise rights to Spider-Man, how he can ruin Spider-Man's public image easily. Even if Spider-Man decides to quit being a hero, he will hire someone else to be Spider-Man to help ruin his image. But he also tells Spider-Man that he knows about him going to Midtown High, stating that he will blow up the school or blow up the X-Men mansion as well, since he knew about Spider-Man dating Kitty Pryde. That's if Spider-Man ever gets in his business ever again. Kingpin will do those horrible things he just stated. Then you have Kingpin start to beat down on Ronin as well, letting Ronin and Spider-Man know that he knows about the little superhero team up they have put together. He tells Spider-Man that it was Daredevil who told him about their plan, because Kingpin knows that Daredevil is Matt Murdock. He knows this because Daredevil works for him, and he was the one who told their whole plan to him. Now we know it was not Daredevil. Instead, we know it was really Iron Fist who told the Kingpin the whole plan. But Moon Knight and Spider-Man don't know this piece of information just yet. And then we jump back over to Matt Murdock himself, and we see him in court right now dealing with another case. Then he overhears a conversation. He overhears about how the Kingpin has now captured the Spider-Man. And so he goes over to Kingpin's tower hoping to find Spider-Man and stopping the Kingpin as well, only to find the place empty. But then you have him call up Doctor Strange to help him find Spider-Man and find the Kingpin as well. This leads to Doctor Strange appearing and using his magic to hopefully find Spider-Man. The spell he does lets him know what went down from the very beginning to the very end, except there is no sound. And so all they have is a visual of what happened. As they are watching what is happening, they also find out that Moon Knight had already gone undercover, but got caught by the Kingpin. As they followed the magic spell over the base of the Kingpin, trying to find out what had happened to Spider-Man and Moon Knight, that is when they followed the spell to a dead end, because Kingpin and his men left the base. The question is now, what happened to Moon Knight and Spider-Man? That is when you have Daredevil and Doctor Strange call up Shang-Chi and Iron Fist to tell them what had happened. They are all worried that the Kingpin actually did kill Spider-Man and Moon Knight off. But while they are talking, you have Spider-Man appear, and he is angry because if you remember, the Kingpin told Spider-Man that Daredevil is a traitor and he actually works for the Kingpin. And so Spider-Man does not believe that Daredevil is a good person anymore and start to ask Daredevil, is it true that he is a traitor? But that is when the office of Matt Murdock's across the street blows up, letting everyone know that Daredevil is actually a good person because it was the Kingpin who blew up the office of Matt Murdock law office. Then Matt Murdock was able to use his powers to realize that Iron Fist's heart is beating faster than usual, meaning that Daredevil knows it was Iron Fist who is working for the Kingpin and told the Kingpin everything about their plan. And before we are able to know what Daredevil did to Iron Fist, we jump back over to Moon Knight, who is once again going by Ronin. But since Iron Fist told Kingpin about his whole plan about Moon Knight is going to pretend to be someone else, after Kingpin let Spider-Man go, he told his men to take Moon Knight away and kill him. And so they take him to the river and actually shoot him right in the head, leaving his body in the ocean as a message to other superheroes who would try to bring down the Kingpin. Then we finally jump back over to Daredevil and the other superheroes, where we see that Daredevil went a little crazy and started to beat down on Iron Fist. Luckily for Iron Fist, Doctor Strange was there to stop Daredevil from trying to beat Iron Fist to death. But this is where we learn why Iron Fist told the Kingpin the whole plan. When Shang-Chi asks Iron Fist why, you have Iron Fist tell them that the Kingpin knows about his daughter. That if Iron Fist tried to do anything towards the Kingpin, Kingpin would have killed his family and sent him back to prison. If you remember when we first saw Ultimate Iron Fist, he was leaving prison to go on parole. And so this explains why Iron Fist did what he did, so he would be able to protect his daughter. Now you have Iron Fist go back to Kingpin one more time and actually tells him about every single thing that just happened, where Daredevil was able to figure out it was Iron Fist, and Iron Fist explains why he did it. This leads to Kingpin asking Iron Fist, why did the heroes let him go if they knew he was a traitor? That is when you have Iron Fist tell Kingpin that Daredevil told him he is going to take the one thing he cares for the most. That is when you have the Kingpin run full speed up to another room to find Daredevil holding the Kingpin's wife. If you remember, Kingpin's wife is in a coma. Reason why she's in a coma is unknown to us. All we know is because of some kind of illness. We do not know what form of illness it is, but she is in a coma. But you have Daredevil say to Kingpin, if he takes one more step, Daredevil will snap the neck of the Kingpin's wife. And before we learn what happened with the Kingpin and Daredevil, we actually jump back over to Moon Knight once again. And this is huge because when we last saw him, Kingpin's men shot him right in the head and left his body in the river to be a message to other heroes. Somehow, this man is still alive and he is able to get out of the water and actually go to the police station. This is how the heroes are going to win against the Kingpin. You have Moon Knight reveal to the police that he is Mark Spector, aka Moon Knight. But he tells them how the Kingpin just tried to kill him. And he'll be glad to help them prove that the Kingpin is a horrible man. Then we jump back over to the Kingpin and Daredevil. And this is where we see them have a small standoff. Well, really, the Kingpin begging Daredevil to not snap the neck of his wife. Daredevil is wondering why shouldn't he? Since Kingpin took everything from him, why not get revenge against the Kingpin by taking something he values so much? Now you have Spider-Man jump right in before Daredevil is able to kill Vanessa Fisk. You have Spider-Man able to talk the two men out of this battle. You have him tell Daredevil that if he does this, he will be just like Wilson Fisk, something he does not want to be at all. But to make sure that the Kingpin does not try to attack them, you have Spider-Man threaten that he can get Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. on him. This makes both men stop what they're doing, and this ends the battle. Now the story closes with the Kingpin and his men heading back to the airport. Now Kingpin told the heroes that he would stop what he was doing, which was trying to kill the heroes. Of course, that was a lie. And you have him tell his men to take Vanessa out of the country, but while doing that, hire the best people around the world and start killing every single one of the heroes who were involved in this storyline. But while the Kingpin is telling his men what to do while trying to get on a plane, you have the police arrive and tell him he is under arrest for attempted murder. And when the Kingpin asks who he tried to kill, they tell him it was Mark Spector, aka Moon Knight. And he is shocked to find out that Moon Knight survived and he was able to get him arrested. And this is where we are going to end today's video. So guys, please hit that like button down below and also subscribe for more comic book stories like this in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I will see y'all in the next comic book video. Later, guys.